Acer has refreshed the popular Nitro 5 gaming laptop with AMD's Ryzen 4000 processors, so just how well does it perform in games? I've tested out the GTX 1650 config in 22 titles and compared it with other laptops to find out the difference. Microsoft Flight Simulator was a no-go at high-end and ultra settings, though 30 FPS or so at medium seems usable, while the low-end setting preset was able to boost this a fair bit to a whopping 50 frames per second. This is only the second time I've tested Stranding. The first time was on a 2070, so quite a big difference here. In any case, it was still running around 60 FPS with the default setting preset, which looks pretty decent. Red Dead Redemption 2 was tested using the game's built-in benchmark tool. It's not possible to run at ultra settings due to the 4GB VRAM limit of the GTX 1650 graphics. Otherwise, even with the low setting preset, we're under 50 FPS. This is a resource-heavy test. Battlefield 5 was tested in campaign mode. It was just under 60 FPS at high settings. I wouldn't want to go with ultra here due to the big drop in 1% low performance, but no problems with lower levels. I'll compare the Nitro against other laptops in this game soon. Control was tested with RTX disabled as we've just got GTX hardware here. I don't think this one needs a super high frame rate to play. It felt alright at medium settings for the most part, but the low preset was needed to maintain above 60 FPS. Shadow of the Tomb Raider was tested with the built-in benchmark. Medium settings was just below 60 FPS, but we could surpass this a fair bit if you're willing to run at lower levels. This is another title I'll use to compare on other laptops shortly. Apex Legends was tested with either all settings at maximum or all settings at the lowest possible values, as it doesn't have predefined setting presets. It was playing well maxed out. Even the 1% low is near the screen's refresh rate, but there were big gains to be had at lower settings. Call of Duty Modern Warfare was tested in campaign mode with either max or min settings for the same reason. This time with all settings at minimum, we're only just able to hit 60 FPS. Fortnite was tested with the replay feature, and as a less demanding game, even the highest settings were above 60 FPS here. High settings pushed even the 1% low above the screen's refresh rate, then much higher as possible at lower levels. CSGO was tested with the Euletical FPS benchmark. I mean, this game runs on basically anything, so the frame rates are far above acceptable, especially given the 60Hz screen and the 1% lows not being far off 60. Dota 2 was tested playing in the middle lane with bots, and despite the lower specs compared to most other laptops I've recently tested, the frame rate isn't that much lower. Even at max settings, the 1% low is above the screen's refresh rate. Overwatch was tested running through the practice range. This is another less demanding esports title. Even the highest epic setting preset had 1% lows above 60, so no problems at all. Rainbow Six Siege was tested with the built-in benchmark using Vulkan. Again, 1% lows above what the screen is able to display, with averages surpassing 100 FPS. Metro Exodus was tested using the built-in benchmark. Most parts of the game perform a fair bit better than this, so don't take these results as a good indication of what to expect throughout the entire game. It's more of a worst case that can be compared against my other data. The Division 2 was also tested with the built-in benchmark and is fairly resource heavy too. Medium settings were needed to pass 60 FPS in this test, though low was hitting a higher 1% low than even the average at medium if you really want to prioritize frame rate. Monster Hunter World was tested running through the main town. Mid settings were around that 60 FPS point, and the 1% lows aren't too far behind the averages, which means more consistent results. Borderlands 3 was tested using the game's built-in benchmark, and like many of the other more demanding games, medium settings were required for that 60 FPS sweet spot. Ghost Recon Breakpoint was also tested with the benchmark tool. VRAM limits were being hit at the higher levels, hence the lower results. And again, the medium preset was right on 60 FPS. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is another that was tested with the game's benchmark, and yet again, 60 FPS at medium settings. The Witcher 3 was playing well at high settings, which sees a fairly big jump up from Ultra without looking too different in visual quality in my opinion. F1 2019 was tested with the benchmark tool and sees similar behavior, a nice jump dropping down just one level from max. Though that said, even at max settings, the 1% low is higher than the screen's refresh rate. Far Cry New Dawn was also tested with the game's benchmark. Not that big of a difference between the presets, and high settings was still above 60 FPS. Now let's take a look at how the Ryzen-based Nitro 5 compares against other laptops. Use these results as a rough guide only, as they were tested at different times with different drivers. I've tested Battlefield 5 in campaign mode at ultra settings, and the Nitro 5 is highlighted in red. In this test, it's the lowest result I've got for a GTX 1650 laptop so far, not counting the lower powered Max-Q options of course. Intel still seems to have a bit of an edge when it comes to gaming gaming for the most part. So that's not too surprising, as the other 1650 laptops are Intel based. At the same time though, it's very close to the Aorus 5 with 9th gen i7. These are the results from Far Cry 5 with ultra settings in the built-in benchmark. The Nitro moves up a few places this time, and is now the best 1650 result out of the machines I've got data for. This test is generally more CPU reliant, but in say Cinebench, I get similar scores on the 4600H to those 9th gen i7s. It could be the faster DDR4 3200 memory helping the Nitro along. Shadow of the Tomb Raider was also tested with the game's benchmark tool with the highest setting preset. Again, the Nitro 5 was offering the best result out of the 1650 laptops I've tested, and was just a couple of FPS behind the 1650 Ti in the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3 just above it. Review on that one coming soon. In many games, we needed medium settings to hit that 60 FPS sweet spot, which is something I've noticed when testing GTX 1650 laptops in the past. It of course depends on the game. Esports titles, for instance, do much better, but for say AAA games, for a good experience, you'll need to sacrifice some graphical settings, or otherwise instead consider a 1660 Ti option. Unfortunately, the Nitro doesn't offer FreeSync like many other Ryzen gaming laptops, and as a 60Hz panel, the tearing was noticeable. Here are the screen response time results for the 1080p 60Hz panel in the Nitro 5. The average gray-to-gray response time was around 23 milliseconds, so not great. Ideally, you want 16.66 milliseconds for a 60Hz panel like this. I've got a link in the description explaining what all these numbers mean. I haven't had too many 60Hz laptops in for testing since buying the tools to measure response time. The only other gaming laptop I've got to compare with is the Dell G5 Special Edition, which is only just slightly below it. I hope this has been useful. I wasn't able to get this laptop in Australia, so I had to buy it and ship it over from the US with my own money. Shout out to the Patreon members who help me cover popular models like this that you all want to see. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to join us in Discord or check out some behind the scenes videos. Anyway, let me know what you thought of the Nitro 5 gaming performance down in the comments. And if you're new, then definitely get subscribed for the upcoming full review video where I'll show you absolutely everything about this laptop.